I built that house with my bare hands 43 years ago, and my son just told me I had 72 hours to get out. His exact words were, "Dad, you're 78. It's time you learned your place." I stared at the eviction papers worth $450,000 and smiled. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. The papers shook in my hands. Not from fear but from the arthritis that had been getting worse since Martha died. Michael stood in my living room, the same room where I taught him to walk, where we celebrated his college acceptance, where we held his mother's wake. He couldn't look at me. His eyes stayed fixed on the family portrait above the fireplace, the one where he was 7 and missing his front teeth. "Jessica's parents need a place to stay," he said, his voice flat like he was reading a grocery list. "They're getting older, and Florida's too expensive now." I heard Jessica laugh from the kitchen, not a nervous laugh, but the satisfied kind. Like when she'd won an argument, she was making coffee in my wife's favorite mug, the one with the painted sunflowers that I'd bought Martha for our 40th anniversary. "And where am I supposed to go?" I asked. Though I already knew this conversation had been rehearsed, Michael finally looked at me, and for a second I saw something flicker in his eyes. Maybe guilt, maybe just impatience. "We found you a nice assisted living place. Sunset Gardens. They have activities, medical staff." "I don't need medical staff. I need my home." "Dad, be reasonable. This house is too big for you. You can barely manage the stairs anymore." That was a lie. I'd built those stairs with reinforced oak, made them wide and steady. I could walk them blindfolded. But I didn't argue. I'd learned something about battles from my time in Vietnam. Sometimes the best strategy is to let the enemy think they've won. Jessica appeared in the doorway, holding that mug like a trophy. She was 34, blonde, pretty in that sharp way that made other men envious of Michael. But her smile never reached her eyes. Not once in the 12 years they'd been married. "Robert," she said, using my first name like we were strangers, "this is what's best for everyone. You'll see." I looked at the eviction papers again. My signature was at the bottom of a deed transfer dated 5 years ago. I remembered that day hazily. 2 weeks after my triple bypass, Michael visiting me in the hospital with a stack of papers. "Just some estate planning stuff, Dad, for taxes." But that wasn't the worst part. From the stairs I heard a small gasp. Emma, my 16-year-old granddaughter, stood frozen halfway down. Her face was pale, her phone clutched in her hand. She'd been recording something. I could see the red light still blinking. "Emma, go to your room," Jessica snapped. Emma looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "Grandpa." Now, Michael's voice made her flinch. She ran back upstairs, but not before mouthing 2 words to me. "I'm sorry." I stood up slowly, my knees protesting. 78 years old, and I was being evicted from the house I'd built with money I'd saved from driving trucks for 30 years. The house where Martha and I raised 3 kids, Michael and his 2 sisters who lived across the country and barely called anymore. "I'll need time to pack," I said. 72 hours, Michael repeated. "The legal minimum." Legal. My son was citing legal minimums to me. I walked to the mantel and picked up the picture of Martha. She'd been gone 3 years now, cancer taking her slowly, painfully. Michael had been different then. Attentive, caring. The change came after the funeral, after he learned about the life insurance, the savings, the house value in this market. "I understand," I said quietly. They both relaxed visibly. Jessica even attempted what she probably thought was a sympathetic smile. "We knew you'd be reasonable, Dad," Michael said, already turning away. "I'll have some boxes sent over." They left me standing there, holding Martha's picture. But they didn't see me pull out my phone. They didn't hear the 3 calls I made over the next hour. The first to Harold Brennan, my lawyer and poker buddy for 20 years. The second to my bank. The third to someone Michael had forgotten existed, his mother's sister Patricia, who worked for the state attorney's office. Each call lasted less than 10 minutes. Each one set something in motion, I wasn't angry yet. Anger would come later. Right now I was something far more dangerous. I was a father who'd just realized his son had been planning this for years, and I was about to teach him a lesson he'd never forget. The deed transfer happened 5 years ago when I was drugged up on morphine after my heart surgery. Michael brought the papers to my hospital bed and said, "Dad, this is just for tax purposes." I remember the way the fluorescent lights hurt my eyes, how Michael's voice sounded like it was coming through water. The surgeon had just finished explaining that the surgery went well, but I'd need months of recovery. Michael held my hand. When was the last time he'd done that? And guided it to sign each page. "Don't worry about reading it all, Dad." Harold looked it over. That was a lie. I found that out sitting in a Motel 6 2 days after the eviction, going through boxes of documents I'd grabbed. Harold's business card was paperclipped to a folder marked "Important" that I'd never opened. Inside was a sticky note in Martha's handwriting. "Bobby, Harold says never sign anything without him present. Love you." She'd been trying to protect me even then, probably sensing something I was too blind to see. The motel room smelled like cigarettes and disappointment. I spread the papers across the bed, bank statements, tax returns, insurance policies. That's when I found it, tucked inside Martha's old recipe box that I'd grabbed by instinct. A document from First National Trust, established 30 years ago under my mother's maiden name, Thompson. $2.8 million. I sat down hard on the bed. I'd forgotten about it completely. When my mother died, she'd left me her entire estate with strict instructions. It was to be held in trust, untouchable except by the trustee. Me. Only me. Until death. Michael didn't know it existed. How could he? I'd set it up before he was born, when I was still paranoid about losing everything like my father had in bad investments. Martha knew, but we'd never needed it. We lived simply, saved carefully, figured we'd leave it all to the kids eventually. But there was more. I pulled out my pension statements and noticed something odd. Withdrawals I hadn't made. Small at first. $200 here, $300 there. Then bigger. The signatures looked like mine. But the R was wrong. I'd been writing my name the same way since 3rd grade, and someone had been practicing my signature but couldn't quite master that particular letter. 3 years of theft, almost $47,000 total. My phone rang. Harold's gravelly voice filled the tiny room. "Robert, I've been looking into that deed transfer. You need to sit down." I'm sitting. The notary who witnessed it. She lost her license 2 years ago for fraud. The transfer might not even be legal. But that's not the worst part. I waited. Harold had been a prosecutor before he went into private practice. He knew how to build to a revelation. Jessica's been named as co-owner on 3 other properties in different states. Same pattern, elderly relative, medical emergency, sudden transfer. 1 in Ohio, 1 in Kansas, 1 in Nevada. They're relatives. That's the thing, Robert. I can't find any connection. These people aren't related to her at all. My hands went cold. Harold, what are you saying? I'm saying your daughter-in-law might be a professional. And Robert? The woman in Kansas died 2 months after signing. Heart failure, supposedly. But her daughter's been trying to get someone to investigate. I thought about Emma's tears. Her apology. What had she overheard? What had she been recording? Harold, can you freeze my accounts? Already done. Pension, savings, checking. All frozen pending investigation. Robert, they committed elder abuse and fraud. We can destroy them. I looked at Martha's picture, the one I'd managed to grab. She was smiling, holding baby Michael, looking at him like he was the whole world. What would she think of what he'd become? Not yet, I said. Let them think they've won. Robert, I need to know how deep this goes. If Jessica's done this before, if Michael knows, if there are others involved. Harold, I spent 2 tours in Vietnam learning patience. I can wait a little longer. What are you planning? I thought about Emma's face, the way she'd tried to warn me. I'm going to accept their Thanksgiving invitation. You're going back there? Oh yes. They want to parade their victory, show off their new house, and I'm going to let them. But Harold, make sure you have Detective Martinez on speed dial. Martinez? Elder Crimes Unit Martinez? The very same. Tell her she might want to review some interstate fraud cases, similar patterns. Elderly victims. Mysterious deaths. Harold was quiet for a moment. Robert, are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying my son married a black widow, and he either doesn't know it or he doesn't care. Either way, I'm about to find out which is worse. 2 weeks after they kicked me out, Michael called. Dad, we're having Thanksgiving, you should come. For Emma's sake, I knew it was Jessica's idea to parade their victory. I parked my old truck on the street. They'd removed my name from the mailbox already, replaced it with the Morrison family in gold lettering. Jessica's last name, not Michael's. I should have paid attention to details like that years ago. The front door, my front door, had been painted red. Martha would have hated it. She'd specifically chosen sage green because it matched the shutters, but Martha wasn't here to object anymore. Michael answered the door wearing an apron I'd never seen before. Dad, glad you could make it. He hugged me. It felt like hugging a stranger wearing my son's face. Over his shoulder, I saw they'd gutted the living room. My leather recliner was gone. Martha's antique secretary desk, the one her grandmother had left her, gone. Everything replaced with white furniture that looked like it belonged in a magazine nobody really lived in. Robert, Jessica's mother, Linda, appeared from my bedroom. My bedroom wearing Martha's pearl necklace, the one I'd given her on our 25th anniversary, the one that was supposed to go to Emma. Michael said you were getting too old to maintain this place, Linda said, her voice syrupy sweet. It's better with family who can appreciate it. Family. This woman I'd met twice was calling herself family while wearing my dead wife's jewelry. Jessica's father, Frank, was in my workshop. I could hear power tools running. My sanctuary where I'd built Emma's dollhouse, Michael's treehouse, where I'd carved Martha's name into a piece of oak while she was dying, now just another room for strangers to claim. Drink, Dad? Michael offered me bourbon. The good stuff. My good stuff. From the bottle I'd been saving for Emma's graduation. Water's fine. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs. She'd lost weight, dark circles under her eyes. She came down slowly, hugged me tight, and pressed something into my hand. A folded piece of paper. Emma, help your mother in the kitchen, Jessica called out. Emma squeezed my hand once more and disappeared. I slipped the paper into my pocket. Dinner was served in the dining room, but not at my table. That solid oak masterpiece I'd built was gone, replaced with glass and chrome. They'd even painted over the mural Martha and I had created one summer, a garden scene we'd worked on together when she first got sick, when we still thought she'd beat it. But I hadn't expected anything less. So, Robert, Frank said, cutting into a turkey that looked dry enough to use as kindling, Jessica tells us you're enjoying Sunset Gardens. I'm at a motel. Silence. Dad's being stubborn, Michael said quickly. The assisted living place is very nice. I don't need assistance. I need my home. Linda laughed. A tinkling sound that made my teeth hurt. Oh, Robert, this isn't really your home anymore, is it? I mean, legally speaking. There it was. The victory lap. You're right, I said calmly. Legally speaking, you've won. Jessica and Michael exchanged glances. They hadn't expected me to admit it so easily. We're not trying to be cruel, Dad, Michael said. This is just practical. The house is too much for you. The house I built? The stairs I climbed yesterday? The kitchen where I cooked breakfast this morning? Oh wait, that was a motel hot plate. There's no need for sarcasm, Jessica said. You're right. There's no need for anything anymore, is there? You have everything you wanted. Under the table, I unfolded Emma's note. Grandpa, I know what they did was wrong. I recorded Mom and Dad talking about the fraud. Files are hidden in my cloud. Password is your birthday and Grandma's. Mom's planning something worse. Please be careful. After dinner, Michael pulled me aside into what used to be my study. Now it was a home gym. My books, 40 years of collecting first editions, gone. Dad, we need to talk about your pension. What about it? For tax purposes, it would be better if you signed it over to us. We'd give you an allowance, of course. An allowance. From my own pension. Don't be difficult. You've already signed the house over. This is just paperwork. I pulled out the forms he handed me, pretended to read them. What he didn't know was that Harold had already frozen everything. The account he wanted me to sign over had exactly $17 in it. I'd moved everything else. Fine, I said, signing with a flourish. Michael relaxed, clapped me on the shoulder. See? That wasn't so hard. We're doing this for your own good, Dad. Michael, I said, looking him straight in the eye, what would your mother think? Something flickered across his face. Shame, maybe, or just annoyance. Mom's dead, Dad. We have to think about the living. Yes, I said quietly. We do. The detective's name was Martinez, and she specialized in elder abuse cases. Mr. Robert, she said. What your son did is a felony. Are you prepared for what comes next? Detective Martinez looked younger than Emma, but her eyes were old. She'd seen this before, families torn apart by greed, children becoming strangers, love replaced by legal documents. I've seen the evidence Harold sent over, she said, spreading files across her desk. The forged checks, the fraudulent deed transfer, and these recordings your granddaughter provided. She pressed play on her computer. Jessica's voice filled the room. The old fool signed everything. Michael, you were right. He was so drugged he'd have signed his own death warrant. Michael's laugh made my stomach turn. 3 more months and we can put him in a home. Once he's declared incompetent, the trust fund goes to us. What trust fund? Jessica asked. Mom mentioned something once about family money. Has to be somewhere. So he did know about it, or suspected. My son had been treasure hunting while I was grieving his mother. Martinez stopped the recording. There's more. Your granddaughter was very thorough. She gets that from her grandmother. Mr. Robert, I need to tell you something difficult. Martinez pulled out another file. Jessica Morrison, that's not her real name. She's been linked to 3 other cases. Kansas, Ohio, Nevada. Harold mentioned that. What he might not have told you is that Jessica's parents aren't her parents. Frank and Linda Garrett are known associates. They've run this con in multiple states. They target elderly people with valuable homes, especially widowers. And they always win? Usually. But here's what's different about your case. She pulled out a photo. An elderly woman, smiling, holding a cat. Dorothy Chen, Kansas. She died 2 months after signing over her house. Official cause was heart failure. But her daughter found powder residue in her coffee maker. The same medication Dorothy took for her heart, but in concentrated doses. Small amounts over time would cause heart failure. Martinez nodded. We could never prove it. By the time we investigated, the house was sold. Jessica and her parents were gone. I thought about Jessica making coffee in Martha's mug, her satisfied smile. Emma texted me yesterday, I said, pulling out my phone. She said Jessica's been asking about my medications, wanting to know what I take when I take it. Martinez leaned forward. Mr. Robert, I think your granddaughter may have saved your life. What about Michael? Is he part of this? She hesitated. That's what we need to find out. Either he's a victim who's been manipulated or he's complicit. The recordings suggest he knows about the financial fraud, but the attempted murder plot, that might be all Jessica. How do we find out? We set a trap. Are you willing to wear a wire? I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Even if it means sending your son to prison. I thought about the Michael I'd raised, the boy who cried when his goldfish died, who insisted on sleeping in the hospital chair when Martha was sick, who promised her he'd take care of me. That son is already gone, I said. The man living in my house is a stranger. Martinez made a call. Within an hour, Harold arrived with 2 FBI agents. Interstate fraud had made this federal. Robert, Harold said. They found something else. Michael's been in contact with Jessica's previous victims' families, not to help them, to learn from their mistakes. The room spun slightly. He knew. He's been studying how they contested the transfers, what legal challenges worked, what didn't. He's been preparing for if you fought back. One of the FBI agents, a woman named Chen, maybe a coincidence, maybe not, laid out the plan. Tomorrow, you go back. Tell them you're not feeling well, that you need to rest there for a few hours. Jessica will likely make her move. We'll be listening. What about Emma? We're removing her tonight. Child Protective Services will say it's a routine check based on an anonymous tip about truancy. She'll be safe. She'll know something's wrong. She already knows everything's wrong, Mr. Robert. She's the one who contacted us first. That stopped me cold. Emma called you? Martinez smiled sadly. 3 weeks ago, right after she heard her parents discussing putting something in your coffee at Thanksgiving, she's been documenting everything since. That young lady loves you more than you know. More than her parents? She said, and I quote, "My parents are monsters. My grandfather is the only real family I have left." I had to sit down. Emma, barely 16, carrying this weight alone. There's one more thing, Chen said. We found Jessica's real name, Jennifer Watts. She's wanted in connection with 7 elderly deaths across 5 states. Your son might have married her thinking he was conning a con artist. Instead, he married a serial killer. I returned to the house unannounced on a Tuesday morning. Jessica was in my kitchen grinding pills into powder, making coffee. I asked. She dropped the mug and it shattered, just like her composure. The sound of porcelain breaking on Martha's tiles was almost musical. Jessica stood frozen, white powder dusting the counter, the coffee grinder still in her hand. You're supposed to be at the motel, she said. Her voice steady but her hands shaking. I wasn't feeling well. Thought I'd rest here. Still my house for a few more weeks, right? She tried to sweep the powder into her hand, casual-like. Just my vitamins. I grind them up sometimes. In the coffee grinder? It's easier to digest. I walked closer. She backed against the counter. For the first time since I'd met her, Jessica looked scared. Where's Michael? Work. He'll be back for lunch. And your parents? Shopping. We were alone. Perfect. You know, Jessica. I've been thinking about Dorothy Chen. The color drained from her face. I don't know who that is. Kansas. 2 years ago. Signed her house over to her nephew and his wife. Died 2 months later. Heart failure. People die, Robert. Yes, they do. Also thinking about Harold Morrison in Ohio. No relation to you, despite sharing a last name. Or was that intentional, taking his name after he died? She set down the grinder, her fingers inching toward the knife block. What do you want? The truth. Does Michael know what you are? What I am. She laughed, but it was hollow. I'm a survivor, just like you. We do what we have to do. I never murdered anyone. Didn't you? Vietnam, wasn't it? How many people did you kill over there? That was war. This is war too. Financial war. Survival of the smartest. And Michael? Her face softened. Just for a moment. Michael was supposed to be different. He approached me, you know. At that investment seminar. He knew who I was. What I'd done. He'd researched everything. He said we could be partners. My knees nearly buckled. The wire felt like it was burning through my shirt. He knew you were a killer? He knew I was efficient. The killing part, that was my addition to the plan. He just wanted the money, but then he realized you had more hidden away, and simple fraud wasn't going to be enough. You're too healthy, too sharp. You could live another 10 years. So you decided to speed things up. We decided. She emphasized the we. Michael said you were already grieving yourself to death over Martha. We'd just be Helping. By poisoning me? By increasing your medication, you wouldn't feel a thing. Just tired. Then more tired. Then one day, you wouldn't wake up. Peaceful. More than you gave those people in Vietnam. Those people were trying to kill me. And you're trying to kill us by living too long. The logic of a psychopath. Clean, simple, horrifying. What about Emma? What about her? She knows. Jessica's eyes narrowed. She's a child. No one would believe her. They believed her enough to take her away last night. Now Jessica went completely white. What? Child Protective Services. Seems someone reported concerns about her welfare. She's in foster care pending investigation. You're lying. Call Michael. Ask him. She grabbed her phone. Dialed. I could hear Michael's panicked voice through the speaker. The police were here. They took Emma. They're asking about Dad, about the house, about... He paused. Is he there with you? Jessica looked at me. And in that moment she knew. You're wearing a wire. Yes. She lunged for the knife block. I stepped back, but at 78, I wasn't fast enough. The blade caught my arm. Not deep, but enough to bleed. You destroyed everything, she screamed. The front door exploded open. FBI agents flooded in. Weapons drawn. Jessica dropped the knife. Fell to her knees. I want a lawyer. You'll need one, Agent Chen said, cuffing her. Michael's car screeched into the driveway. He ran in, saw Jessica in cuffs, saw my bleeding arm, saw the badges. Dad, what's happening? What's happening is justice, son. He looked at Jessica, at the agents, at me. The calculation in his eyes was familiar, the same look he'd had as a kid when he was figuring out how to lie his way out of trouble. I don't know anything about this. Whatever she did... We have recordings, Michael, Martinez said, entering behind him. Your voice, your plans, your knowledge of the murders. Murders? What murders? I just wanted the house. The house you stole through fraud, while your father was drugged and vulnerable. Michael's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Then he did something I didn't expect. He tried to run. He made it 3 steps before tripping over the doorstep I'd built 43 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. As they cuffed him, he started crying. Dad, I'm your son. You can't do this. I walked over, my arm still bleeding, and looked down at him. You stopped being my son the day you chose greed over family. Mom would never. Don't you dare invoke your mother. She'd be devastated by what you've become. Emma appeared in the doorway with a social worker. She ran to me, careful of my injured arm, and held me tight. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you sooner. You saved my life, sweetheart. As they led Michael and Jessica away, Michael screamed. I'll never forgive you for this. Good, I said quietly. That makes 2 of us. My son looked 20 years older sitting in that defendant's chair. When the prosecutor read the charges, elder abuse, fraud, attempted murder, Michael finally looked me in the eye. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Court TV had given me delusions of grandeur, but this was just a beige room with uncomfortable benches and a judge who looked tired before we even started. Jessica had taken a plea deal. 25 to life. Possibility of parole in 15. She'd thrown Michael under the bus so hard the tire marks would be permanent. According to her new version, he was the mastermind. She was just a woman in love who got caught up in his scheme. Mr. Robert Sullivan, please take the stand. I walked slowly, not because I had to, but because I wanted Michael to see every step. The man who'd claimed I was too frail to manage stairs watching me walk steady and sure. Mr. Sullivan, tell us about the day your son asked you to sign those papers. I was in the hospital recovering from triple bypass surgery. I was on morphine, barely conscious. Michael told me they were estate planning documents. Did you read them? I couldn't. My vision was blurred from the medication. And you trusted your son? I looked at Michael. I did. He was the person I trusted most in the world. The prosecutor showed the forged checks, the fraudulent signatures. An expert testified that someone had practiced my signature hundreds of times before attempting the forgeries. Then came the recording Emma had made. The courtroom went silent as Michael's voice filled the space. Once he's in the home, we can declare him incompetent. The trust fund, the veteran benefits, everything goes to us. But what if he fights? He won't. He's old, tired, and still grieving Mom. We just have to be patient. The prosecutor paused the recording. Mr. Sullivan, when did you discover the trust fund theft attempts? After they evicted me, they didn't know about the Thompson Trust, but they were looking for it. The trust worth $2.8 million? Yes, gasps from the gallery. Michael's lawyer, a public defender who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, stood up. Objection. Relevance? Goes to motive, Your Honor. Overruled. The prosecutor continued. Were you aware your daughter-in-law had murdered elderly people before? Objection. That's prejudicial and… She's already confessed, Counselor. Overruled. No, I wasn't aware. I thought she was just unfriendly. Someone in the gallery actually laughed. Then Emma took the stand. My brave granddaughter, looking small in her Sunday dress but sitting straight and strong. Emma, tell us what you heard on September 15th. My parents were in their bedroom. They didn't know I was home. Mom said Grandpa was taking too long to die. Dad said they should increase his medication, make it look natural. What did you do? I started recording everything. Every conversation, every phone call I could. Why didn't you go to the police immediately? Emma looked at me, tears in her eyes. I was scared they'd hurt Grandpa before anyone could stop them, so I stayed quiet and gathered evidence. Emma, the defense attorney started, isn't it true you were angry at your parents for taking your grandfather's house? I was angry they were planning to murder him. But you can't be sure. I have 37 recordings. Would you like to hear the one where my father researches how much morphine it would take to cause heart failure? The defense attorney sat down. Jessica testified via video link from state prison. Orange was not her color, and federal custody had not been kind. Gone was the sharp-edged beauty. Now she looked like what she was, a killer caught. Michael came to me with the plan, she said, her voice flat. He'd researched my past, knew about Kansas and Ohio. He said his father had millions hidden away, and we could get it all if we were smart. And the murders? His idea. He said his father was too healthy to wait for. Michael jumped up. She's lying. Dad, tell them she's lying. The judge banged his gavel. Control your client, Counselor. But the damage was done. The jury saw Michael's rage, his desperation. They saw what I'd been too blind to see for years. My son was gone, replaced by this stranger who wore his face. The defense's case was pathetic. They claimed emotional distress from Martha's death, financial pressure, Jessica's manipulation. They even tried to paint me as an absent father too focused on work to raise my children properly. Mr. Sullivan abandoned his family for his career, the defense attorney said. I wanted to laugh. I'd driven trucks, 16-hour days to pay for Michael's college. I'd missed exactly 3 of his baseball games in 12 years. The jury deliberated for 30 minutes. On the count of elder abuse, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant guilty. Michael collapsed. Actually collapsed, like his legs just gave out. The judge sentenced him to 15 years, possibility of parole in 10 with good behavior. As they led him away, Michael looked at me one last time. I'm sorry, he mouthed. I turned away. Sorry was just another word when it came too late. I got my house back, but it didn't feel like home anymore. Every room held a ghost of the betrayal. Every wall whispered their lies. The furniture was gone, sold or thrown away. The walls were painted white, stark and cold like a hospital. Jessica's family, or whatever they really were, had stripped it clean. Even the doorknobs were different. Emma stood beside me in the empty living room. We can fix it, Grandpa, make it like it was. But you can't unmake memories. You can't unpaint walls that have heard too much. It'll never be the same, sweetheart. She took my hand. Maybe that's okay. Maybe different can be good too. We started with the kitchen. Emma had saved some money from her part-time job, and I had the insurance settlement from the emotional distress. Together, we bought new appliances. Nothing fancy, just functional. She picked out yellow curtains because Grandma always said kitchens should be sunny. That first night we ate Chinese takeout on the floor, surrounded by boxes. I miss them, Emma said suddenly. Your parents? The parents I thought I had. The ones who existed before I knew who they really were. I understood that. I missed my son too. The one I'd raised, not the one who'd tried to kill me. We worked on the house every day. Emma had chosen to stay with me rather than go into permanent foster care. The court approved it quickly. 17-year-olds with straight A's and elderly grandfathers who'd just survived. Attempted murder made sympathetic cases. But 3 weeks in, I broke. Emma found me in the workshop, crying over a piece of wood. It was just a plank, nothing special. But Michael had carved his initials in it when he was 10. MS was here. They took everything, Emma. Not just the house, they took my ability to trust. She sat beside me on the floor, sawdust in her hair. They didn't take everything. She pulled out a cardboard box from behind the workbench. I saved these. Inside were Martha's letters, the ones she'd written me during my Vietnam tours. Photos from our wedding, Michael's birth, family Christmases. The wooden music box I'd made Martha for our first anniversary. How? I knew they'd throw everything away, so I hid them in the attic before they could behind the insulation. Mom was too prissy to check there. We spent the night reading Martha's letters. She wrote about missing me, about baby Michael's first steps, about her dreams for our future. In one letter she'd written, "I hope our son grows up to be like you, honest, hardworking, and kind." Grandma would be so disappointed, Emma said. No, I said, surprising myself. She'd be heartbroken but not disappointed. Disappointment implies you expected better. Your grandmother always worried Michael was too easily influenced, too eager for shortcuts. Did you know? I knew he wasn't perfect. I just never imagined he was capable of this. We decided to sell the house the next week. Too many ghosts. Too much pain. The realtor said we could get $500,000 in this market. Where will we go? Emma asked. Wherever you want. You've got college next year. I want to stay close. Someone needs to look after you. I'm not that old. She smiled. The first real smile I'd seen in months. Your ancient grandpa. Practically prehistoric. Watch it, kid, or you're out of the will. What will? The one I'm writing tomorrow, everything to you. What about Dad? What about him? She nodded, understanding. Some bridges once burned, can't be rebuilt. They just leave scars on both sides of the water. 3 years into his sentence, Michael sent me a letter. The envelope was thin, the handwriting shaky. I almost burned it unopened. But curiosity is a curse sometimes. Dad, I know you won't want to read this. I wouldn't want to hear from me either. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I know that's impossible. Jessica divorced me last month. Turns out she had another husband in Wyoming she never mentioned. She's confessed to 11 murders now, trying to get her sentence reduced. I was stupid, Dad. Greedy and stupid. I saw the money she'd accumulated and thought I could be smart like her. I didn't know about the murders at first. I swear, when I found out, I was already in too deep. That's not an excuse. There is no excuse. Emma visits me sometimes. She doesn't tell you I know. She says you're doing well, that you met someone named Margaret. I'm glad. You deserve happiness after what I put you through. I work in the prison library now. I read to the other inmates sometimes, the ones who never learned how. It reminds me of when you used to read to me before bed. Remember where the wild things are. You did all the voices. I killed that father-son relationship. I killed the part of you that could love me. and I have to live with that. Mom would have forgiven me eventually. She always did, but you're not Mom, and that's probably for the best. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I lost. Not the money or the house, but you. I lost you, and that's the real-life sentence. Michael. I read it twice, then wrote back a single line. Your mother would have forgiven you. But I added something, a photo from Emma's graduation. She'd gotten into State University, full scholarship, studying social work with a focus on elder protection. In the picture, she's beaming, throwing her cap in the air. Michael needed to know that despite everything he'd broken, something good had survived. Emma didn't tell me she'd been visiting him until a year later. Are you angry? She asked. He's your father. Biology doesn't change because of bad choices. He's different now, quieter. He reads a lot. Prison will do that. Do you think you'll ever forgive him? I thought about it for a long time. Forgiveness implies moving past something. Some things you don't move past. You just move forward despite them. At 81, I fell in love again. Her name was Margaret, and she'd also been betrayed by family. We met at an elder fraud support group. Romantic, right? She sat across from me in a circle of folding chairs, listening to a man talk about his nephew stealing his identity. When it was her turn, she said simply, "My daughter convinced me to sign over my retirement accounts for tax purposes. I haven't seen her since." After the meeting, we got coffee. Terrible coffee from a machine that probably hadn't been cleaned since the Clinton administration. How long ago? I asked. 3 years. She lives in Miami now, sends a Christmas card sometimes with photos of grandchildren I've never met. Do you hate her? I hate what she did. But hate takes energy, and at my age I need that energy for other things, like figuring out this dating app my neighbor insisted I download. I laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in months. We started meeting for coffee after every support group session. Then coffee became lunch. Then lunch became dinner. I should warn you, I said one evening over pasta, I come with baggage. A granddaughter in college, a son in prison, and trust issues the size of Texas. I should warn you, she replied. I sleep with a baseball bat under my bed and I run credit checks on everyone I date. You ran a credit check on me. Excellent score, by the way. Though that recent legal settlement was interesting reading, Emma loved her immediately. She's tough, Grandpa. She doesn't take anyone's crap. Margaret moved in 6 months later, not into the old house. We'd sold that to a young family who promised to build new memories in it. We bought a cottage near the ocean, small but perfect, 2 bedrooms, one for us and one for Emma when she visited. The first morning, watching the sunrise over the water with Margaret beside me, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. But peace never lasts long. One afternoon I was gardening. Margaret had insisted on tomatoes when I heard a car pull up. I turned to see Jessica standing there. Prison had not been kind to her. She was gaunt, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes from a thrift store. "Hello, Robert." Margaret appeared on the porch, phone already in hand. "I'm calling the police." "I'm not here to cause trouble," Jessica said. "I just need money," I finished. "You need money. They released me early. Good behavior, but I have nothing. No one. The state took everything, and my so-called parents disappeared with what was left. And you thought I'd help you? You're a good man, Robert. Better than I deserved as a father-in-law." "I was never your father-in-law. You were just a parasite attached to my son." Her face hardened. I could make things difficult for Emma. Tell people things. Margaret laughed. Actually laughed. "Sweetheart, you're a convicted murderer who killed 11 elderly people. Who exactly is going to listen to you?" The police arrived while I was making tea. Habit, I suppose, even for someone who'd tried to kill me. As they escorted Jessica away for violating her parole, she wasn't supposed to contact victims' families, she screamed. "You destroyed my life." I sipped my tea and said quietly, "No, dear. You destroyed mine first. I just returned the favor." Margaret sat beside me as the police car disappeared. You okay? You know what? I actually am. That night, Emma called. She'd heard about Jessica through the victim notification system. Are you and Margaret safe? We're fine, sweetheart. She won't bother us again. Dad called me. From prison. He wanted to make sure you were okay. What did you tell him? The truth, that you're tougher than anyone gives you credit for. I'm 85 now and my lawyer just asked me about my will. Everything goes to Emma, I said. And Michael, he asked. I smiled and said, who? Harold's been my lawyer for 40 years, but he still looked shocked. Robert, he's still your son. No, he was my son. Now he's someone who shares my DNA and tried to kill me for money. We were in Harold's office, the same one where we'd planned the case against Michael. The walls were covered with photos of Harold's family, children, grandchildren, even a great-grandchild. Normal families who visited on holidays without plotting murder. The trust is worth $4 million now, Harold said. That's a lot of money. Emma will use it well. She's opening her own practice after graduation, elder advocacy services. And if something happens to Emma, it goes to her children. If she doesn't have children, it goes to the Elder Justice Foundation. Nothing for Michael. I'm leaving him something. I pulled out an envelope. This? Harold read the single paragraph inside to Michael Sullivan. I leave the knowledge that his daughter became everything he could have been, honest, caring, and trustworthy. I also leave him the memory of what having a father felt like, since he'll never experience it again. That's cold, Robert. That's closure. Margaret had passed the year before, peaceful in her sleep, holding my hand. At her funeral, I saw Michael in the back row. He'd been released early. Good behavior, overcrowding. He looked 70, though he was barely 55. Prison ages you, but guilt ages you more. Emma stood beside me as we buried Margaret next to Martha, my two loves side by side. Dad wants to talk to you, Emma said quietly. I know. Will you? No. After the service, Michael approached. He walked with a cane now. Apparently, prison wasn't kind to child killers, even attempted ones. The other inmates had their own code of justice. Dad, I just wanted to say, I cut him off. I'm not your dad. I'm Emma's grandfather. I'm pop to two beautiful babies. But I'm not your dad. You made sure of that. Please, just let me. Michael, you're a stranger who looks like someone I used to know. That's all. I've changed. Good for you. Change for yourself, not for my forgiveness, because that's never coming. He stood there, broken, leaning on his cane. For a moment, just a moment, I saw the boy who'd cried when his goldfish died. Then I blinked, and he was gone, replaced by the man who'd ground pills to poison me. Emma visits me, he said desperately. She's forgiven me. Emma's a better person than I am. Mom would have. Your mother is dead. She died, thinking you were a good son. Be grateful for that mercy. I walked away, Emma beside me. Behind us, Michael called out, I love you, Dad. I didn't turn around. Love was just another word when it came from someone who'd tried to kill you for money. Emma drove me home to the cottage. Her children, 3-year-old twins named Martha and James, were with the babysitter. They called me Pop-Pop and had no idea their biological grandfather existed. Was that too harsh? I asked Emma. He tried to murder you, Grandpa. There's no such thing as too harsh. Do you really forgive him? I forgive the father I remember from before, the one who taught me to ride a bike and came to my recitals, but that man is gone. The person in prison is someone else, someone I visit out of duty, not love. That night, I updated my will one final time. Everything to Emma and her children. A generous donation to the Elder Justice Foundation, and for Michael, that single paragraph reminding him of what he'd destroyed. Harold filed it the next day. You know, he said, in all my years of practice, I've never seen a family destroyed so thoroughly by greed. It wasn't just greed, I said. It was entitlement. Michael believed he deserved what I'd worked for. Jessica believed she deserved what others had earned. They found each other and created a perfect storm of destruction. And you survived it. Emma survived it. I just endured it. I'm writing this from my chair by the window, watching the ocean. Emma's kids are building sandcastles on the beach, their laughter carrying on the wind. She's pregnant again. Another girl. She wants to name her Margaret. Michael still sends letters. I don't open them anymore. Emma tells me they're full of apologies, explanations, desperate attempts to rewrite history, but you can't edit the past. You can only learn from it. Sometimes I dream about the son I had, the one who existed before greed poisoned him. In those dreams, Martha is still alive, and we're all having Sunday dinner. Michael is laughing, Jessica is actually pleasant, and Emma doesn't have to carry the weight of her parents' crimes. Then I wake up, and reality settles back in. But it's not a bad reality. I have Emma. I have my great-grandchildren. I have the memory of 2 wonderful women who loved me. I have peace. And, somewhere out there, working at a grocery store and living in a studio apartment, Michael has to wake up every day knowing he traded his father's love for money he never got to spend. That's not revenge. That's justice. The perfect patient kind that comes from letting someone live with the consequences of their choices. I close my eyes and listen to the children laughing. Martha would have loved them. She would have forgiven Michael too, probably. But I'm not Martha. I'm just an old man who learned too late that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones capable of hurting you worst. And sometimes the only way to heal is to cut the poison out completely, even if it shares your blood. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share your thoughts about Robert's journey in the comments below. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.